Guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm doing chest and triceps, training at home, so it's barbells, cables, dumbbells. Let's jump into it. Let's go. So first exercise is incline barbell bench. I'm going to do a few warm-up sets. So bars only 20, so I'm going to go a few reps at 20, a few reps at 40, a few reps at 60, and then the jumps are going to get smaller. So instead of going straight from 60 to 80, I'm going to go 60, 70, 70, 75, and then into the working sets around 80 kilos. You don't even have to hit a certain number. If it feels good after one rep, I'm just going to move on to my next warm-up set. I'm not going to waste energy on my warm-up sets because my energy needs to be spent in my working sets. My warm-ups are just meant to help my working sets, not hinder them by taking away my energy. When it comes to your warm-up sets, one mistake you often will make is they'll make these massive jumps at the start. So they'll jump from 20 to 40 to 60, and then they'll go straight into their working set at 80. Whereas you want the jumps in your warm-up sets to get smaller the closer you get to your working set. So I went 20, 40, 60, 70, 80, and now I'm doing 82.5. So you want the jumps in your warm-up to get smaller the closer you get to your working sets. If your first set out feels awful, one thing that's maybe wrong is you're jumping straight from your last warm-up set and your first working set. You want to take a rest between your last warm-up set and your first working set. Yes, you're not actually going to be that tired from all your warm-up sets, but if you've done 15 reps in total in your warm-up, or even 10, you are going to carry a wee bit of tiredness from that into your working set. So make sure you take a rest between your last warm-up set and your first working set. Otherwise, you might actually be a bit tired going into your first working set, which isn't what we want because we want to be as fresh as possible. Right, that was 5. Going for 5 again. 82.5. Right, let's go. One mistake you often see people making when they're benching is their hips will shoot up when they start to get tired. We don't want this to happen because you only have 3 points of contact. You have your feet on the floor, your hips on the bench, and your shoulders on the bench. They're the only 3 places where you can push down in order to produce force. You lift one of those, you're losing the amount of places from which you can produce force. So make sure feet are planted, hips are planted, shoulders are on the bench. You do those 3 things, it'll help the amount of force you can produce, especially when you're getting tired. Right, going into the last set of bench. One thing that's really important is you can sit and have a laugh with your mates on your rest periods, but you need to take a couple of seconds to get mentally focused before going into your sets. Whether that's taking a couple of deep breaths, saying a couple of words to yourself, you need a couple of seconds to get refocused because otherwise that weight's going to feel way heavier and you're not going to be able to lift as much weight as you should. Right, let's go. Come on. Incline bench, finished. Second chest exercise, incline dumbbell bench. These are 22, so do a couple of reps, gonna move on. When you're doing your second exercise of the same muscle group, you don't have to do as many warm-up sets, so I'm only gonna do 1 or 2 reps here. I'm only gonna do probably 3 warm-up sets, so you don't need to do as many warm-up sets because your chest is already warmed up, you're on your second chest exercise. Second warm-up set, going with the 31s, just for 3 reps. Going for the 30, what way these go to? 37s. Need to take a proper rest now. You want to take a proper rest between last warm-up set and first working set so you're not carrying that tiredness across from your warm-up sets. One mistake people make when they're pressing is really limiting the amount of weight they can lift is the speed out of the first rep. You don't want to get stuck at the bottom of the first rep. The bottom of the rep is going to be the hardest, especially when you're only getting set up. So you want to get out of the bottom of the first rep as fast as you can. This is going to mean you can lift more weight, do more reps, and ultimately get more from your dumbbell bench press. If you're struggling to increase the weight when you're doing dumbbell bench, make sure you have the dumbbells start in the right position. You don't want the dumbbells halfway up your quads. You want the dumbbells on your knees. This is going to make it so much easier to flick the dumbbells up. Doing flat bench here, this is the third chest exercise. Way bit different. I'm not going heavy. The last two exercises I did between 6 and 8 reps, or in the last set of dumbbell bench it was a set of 3. Going for sets of between 10 and 12. The only difference is I'm going 3 seconds up, 3 seconds down with a pause at the bottom of each rep. So it's going to be a lot lighter than normal. So I'm going to build up to sets at between 60 and 65, and we'll see how it feels. But the main thing is the speed. So what I can't have happen is the reps just speed up as I get tired. Let's get warmed up. Doesn't matter what type of bench you're doing, whether it's flat barbell, flat dumbbell, any incline variations. The one mistake you can't make, because it's going to negatively impact the amount of force you can produce, is letting your feet come off the floor. If you're doing bench of any kind and your feet fly out from under you, it's going to negatively impact the amount of force you can produce, as you only have 3 contact points, things which you can press into in order to push the weight up. You have your feet compressed into the floor and your hips and shoulders compressed into the bench. If you let your feet come off the floor and your feet fly out from underneath you, you're losing one of your 3 contact points. So you need to keep your feet on the ground. It's going to improve the amount of force you can produce, especially when you get tired in a set. Last set of pressing, then on the flies. If you sit here and overthink things too long, you're not going to want to do it. You're actually going to get in your own head. You're not going to be able to get through as much work. Sometimes you just need to go for it, stop overthinking, and just jump into the set. So let's go. Come on. Let's go. Okay, so just to clarify, that is where the bar ended up. It would have been in the video apart from Rory. This video decided that he thought I was going to get crushed, so he decided not to video it and decided to help out. He should have kept video. Last chest exercise, flies on an incline bench. Going to go for a warm-up set here with the 13s, then going to the working set with the 19s. Last week I did 15, 15, 13, and 17 and a half, so I need to go up. But it'll be interesting to see how many I can do. The aim is at least 10 for all sets, and ideally 12 for the first set or 2. Come on. One mistake you can't make in your flies, even when you get tired, is you can't let your shoulders round forward off the bench, because we don't want to turn in the front delta exercise. We need to keep our chest forward in order to keep the chest in a stretch when we're lowering the dumbbells. Then we also want to make sure that our chest stays upright as we drive our hands in, because it is going to give us a better connection with our chest. If we let our shoulders roll forward, there's not as much tension in the chest. So you don't need to pin your shoulders back, because then you might actually struggle to go through a full range of motion. But you want to make sure that your shoulders aren't rolling forward as you bring the dumbbells towards the middle of your body. When it comes to your flies, you need to make sure that even when you're getting tired, that you don't just start pressing the dumbbells. Yes, your elbow angle might change slightly, but you need to standardize your reps so that your first rep looks like your last rep. If your first rep starts like a fly, but your last rep looks like my dumbbell bench did, then you're not even doing the same exercise. So yes, there may be a bit of variation in what your reps look like, but you need to standardize it. You need to set an acceptable limit of change for the difference between the first and the last rep, because otherwise it's very hard to monitor progress and you don't actually know if you're progressing at your flies or if you've just started benching. When you're doing dumbbell flies, one thing that'll make a massive difference in the connection you have with your chest is actually where your lower back and rib cage are. If you start your set and your rib cage is lifted and your lower back's not on the bench, you might find you get a better connection in your chest as you'll be able to put the chest in the full stretch. But then on the upward phase, if you push your lower back into the bench, you might actually find that you let your shoulders roll forward. As your chest collapses inwards and your shoulders roll forward, this is going to mean there's more pressure on the shoulder and less tension in your chest. Make sure you keep your chest up. And if you find that you get a better connection with your chest, maybe even think about lifting your lower back slightly and lifting your rib cage up. This is going to make sure the chest goes into a full stretch. Also, when it comes to your flies, everyone's going to be slightly different. Everyone's going to have a slightly different elbow angle. If I put my arms completely straight, it's going to feel like my rotator cuff's going to tear off. Everyone's angle is going to be slightly different. Yes, you don't want to just start dumbbell benching, but you don't need your arms completely locked out. Soft elbows, but if you find it's a bit more comfortable to have a slightly bigger bend in your elbow, that's okay too. You just need to figure out what works for you, what gives you the best connection in your chest. Yes, like I said, you don't want to start dumbbell benching, but you also don't need to fully lock out your arms. Right, that is chest done. Now we're on the triceps. First tricep exercise, going close grip bench. This is a set of 20. What I want to do is I want to shuttle as much blood in the triceps and the elbow as possible, which is going to make the later sets feel a lot better because I'm going to have a better pump in my triceps. But obviously my elbows are going to be feeling good after 4 chest exercises, but it's going to shuttle loads of blood into the tricep and going to give me a better connection with the tricep. Especially after doing 4 chest exercises, I just need to make sure that I'm tucking my elbows as well and not letting my chest take over the lift. Second set, when you're doing close grip bench, you don't need your hands to be right together. You want to put your hands where you can connect best to your tricep. For most people, that's just going to be when your arms are straight in front of you. If you have your hands too close together, it's not going to be comfortable in your wrists or elbows. It mightn't even be comfortable in your shoulders. And if you have your hands too wide, you're basically just bench pressing because your chest is going to take over the lift because of the amount of movement in the shoulder. So you want your arms roughly straight, maybe slightly wider, maybe slightly narrower, but you don't want to go extremely narrow or extremely wide. It's either going to train your chest or it's just not going to be comfortable. One thing you need to be really careful of, if you're going from a machine back to free weights for an exercise, is just how much weight you can lift. I haven't done close grip bench press with a bar in ages. I was using a Smith machine, so the amount I was able to lift is slightly different. So when you're going from machine to free weight, you need to be careful of the amount of weight you can lift. Like I failed 2 sets there in a row, which shouldn't happen. Yes, you want to go to failure, but you need to do it safely. That probably wasn't that safe, because if this weight was heavier, I'd actually be in trouble. I wouldn't be comfortable rolling it down my chest. So you just need to be really careful in your setup. You need to be really careful in the amount of reps you're doing. And if you can have a spotter, you want to make sure that when you're training the failure, you actually are able to re-rack the bar. I'm actually going to do one more set here. Let's go. I'm actually going to go a lot lighter. I'm going to go down to 45. When you're doing a lighter set, that doesn't give you an excuse for the quality to drop. When you're doing a lighter set at the end of an exercise, or even at the start when you're fresh, you need to make sure the quality's still there. Just because it's light doesn't mean you want to just start throwing around the weight, let the technique go out the window. You still want to make sure that your quality's good, execution's good, and that you're hitting quality reps, because otherwise you're just wasting your time. That set was better. It's knowing how many reps you actually have when you're starting to approach failure. It's a skill in itself, knowing how many reps you are close to failure. It comes from time using the equipment, and it comes from time doing the exercise. So that was a lot better. Actually able to do the last rep, which makes it a lot safer. You don't want to have to toss the barbell, because that is not how you're meant to do the exercise. That is not the safest way to do it. Right, on the tricep push downs. So second tricep exercise out of 3. Good thing is I actually can't feel these. So yeah, I won't get stuck. When it comes to push downs, one mistake I see people make is they get really emotionally attached to a cable attachment. They'll say either the easy bar's best, straight bar's the best, rope's the best, whatever it may be. Personally, I've started using this attachment. I actually like this, but you don't need to use one specific attachment. You need to use what feels best for you. Like, I get a better connection at the minute in my triceps with this than I did with the easy bar, but I used to get a better connection with the easy bar than I did with other bars. There is some attachments that I don't like for me. I don't really like a straight bar because I find that it puts too much pressure on my wrists. So you need to figure out what attachment works best for you and allows you to train the target muscle to failure. This is the comfiest on the joints and allows you to get the most out of the exercise, because you want the thing to feel to be the muscle you're training and not how sore your wrists are or how the cable attachment feels. Sometimes you don't need to overthink it, you just need to go for it. Just remember, when you're in an exercise, it's safe to go to failure. Don't guess where failure is. Go find it. Tricep push down, you can just go find where failure is. Worst comes to worst, you just put the cable back. Don't guess. No. If you're wondering if you're training the failure, there's a really easy way to figure it out. And you'll be able to tell when you look at someone's reps. You can see in that video there, my reps slow right down. If your last reps don't slow down, you're not training the failure. You're just stopping because you've hit the target reps. The closer you get to failure, the more your reps slow down. There should be a gradual slowing. Because if rep 14 looks like this, and then rep 15 looks like this, you're not training the failure. You've just decided you're done. Last tricep exercise, overhead cable extensions. The one mistake you'll see people make with their overhead cable extensions, they'll put the cable to the bottom of the machine. This makes it so much harder as you're having to reach way back to get the cable. So set the cable to waist height, maybe even slightly higher. It all depends on the length of cable attachment. Because this cable attachment is quite long, I can put the cable a wee bit lower. Because what you don't want at the end of the rep is to hit failure and then have to lower the cable the whole way to the bottom of the pulley. That's gonna be a nightmare. When you're doing your overhead extensions, you actually want to focus on where your elbows are. Because if you let your elbows drop, you're basically turning in an overhead press. Whereas we want to keep our elbows high and think of pressing our hands to the ceiling. Because when you let your elbows drop, you start to bring in your shoulders and you start to use a bit more momentum, and then your triceps aren't doing as much work. Last set of the day, aim is to keep the elbows high and press straight to the ceiling, even as I'm getting fatigued. Right, let's go. Done. That is actually a pretty mad pump. Obviously it was all triceps, but you can see even just with the t-shirt on that my chest and arms are full of blood at the minute. The reverse diet, I suppose, is going well. Hunger is actually okay, which means that I don't really want to binge. Obviously, when I'm reversing, I want to keep eating and keep eating more. But because my hunger is not out of control, I don't feel the need to binge, which means that I can hit my food plan a lot easier. And it also means I can maintain my leanness a lot easier. Obviously, I'm not going to be as lean as what I was when I was at my lightest, 77 kilos. But like, you can't hold that, well, I can't hold that all year round because my training was awful and it was starting to affect my mood. So guys, that brings us to today's video. If you want more videos, I guess just subscribe to the channel. Cheers.